It takes the form of graffiti.
All these niggas thugs now. All these niggas think they can dish Chicago now.
Hey, now ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. Turn this thing on now.
The very first time that I saw your brown eyes, your lips said hello and I said hi. I knew right then you were the one. But I was caught up in physical attraction. But to my satisfaction, baby, you were more than just a face.
Dirty South, dirty, hang out really, feel it. East Coast, Saber, West Coast, dirty South, dirty, hang out really, feel it. I got East Coast, West Coast,
Boy, won't you pick me up at the park right now, up the block while everyone sleeps? I'll be waiting there with my trench, my loops, my hat, just so I'm low key. If you tell the world, oh boy, see I'm trusting you, my heart, my soul. I probably shouldn't let you, but if I let this go, you can't tell nobody. I'm talking about nobody. I hope you're responsible. Oh yeah, gotta watch my back, 'cause I'm not just anybody. Is it my goal? Is it your goal? Sometimes I'm pretty good, right now I'm not. Say yes or say no, 'cause I really need somebody. Tell me you're that somebody.
It takes the form of graffiti.
No! Sweat in your face until me machine breeze stop. Bust me comfy bust it till you don't have no head back. Me jump out yard to do even have time for gap. Then me go back at your funeral, go get your dopey flask. Spit in your face, then kick over your G-box. 45 clock, your little friend them where I watch. A real bad man pose to make note of that. Stand up over your grave and pray for your comeback.
I shall get school to breed and glutton. Politics manipulate and press you button. But we're rich, so that can't tell man nothing. That's we are make mama them fish and mutton. Hey, over there, so make me tell you no something. Show me the foreign now a guy kill me cousin. And me upset he did that, but him say him wasn't. Anytime he fly down, him I get murdered so. Cause
Hakim Bey came up with the idea of the temporary autonomous zone, stating that this is a zone without set rules for a very certain period of time. After a certain period of time,
otra noche de perreo. Rumba, 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 las guiales salen a pariciar.
city's aflame in the summertime. 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 City's aflame in the summertime.
And oh, the beat goes on.
Segregation, determination, demonstration, integration, aggravation, humiliation, obligation to my nation. Oh, yeah. That's what the world is today. Hey, hey. Now listen. All the confusion. Oh, yeah. That's what the world is today. Hey, hey.
Fear in the air, tension everywhere. Unemployment rising past the Beatles, new records of gas.
And the only safe place to live is on an Indian reservation.
And the band played on.
now we move into bureaucracy. What happens when we have strongly codified rules? Well, as all of you here know, people are going to start breaking them. And in order to break these rules, we often have to get creative. So one of the things that ties this in to Discordianism explicitly is that the Principia Discordia was one of the first works that I'm aware of marked with all rights reversed. It was partially a joke on the word all rights reserved, but it was also because the people who wrote this knew that some of the works that they put into the Principia Discordia might have been copyrighted, but they weren't sure, and they really just didn't want to deal with that. So Discordianism itself has a rich history of using copyleft and all rights reverse techniques. And one of the things that I find so fascinating is that there's now a whole movement of free software and free culture that is essentially partially descended from Discordianism. Well, I want to talk about a band called the Jams. In 1987, this group, the Jams, they grabbed their name, by the way, from the Illuminatus trilogy, published this album called 1987, What the Fuck Is Going On? And one of the songs was called The Queen and I. And it uses an ABBA sample from The Dancing Queen. And it really pissed off ABBA. There was a huge, huge lawsuit. And because of this, the Jams said, all right, screw you guys, and changed their name to the KLF, which stands for the Copyright Liberation Front. The KLF have become kind of media pranksters in general. One of the things that's bizarre about them is in 1992, they erased their entire back catalog. Not only that, but they actually took their entire earnings from the KLF, which was £1 million sterling, and burned it, all of it, in a giant media event.
From the teachers in our classroom to the leaders of our state, I'm registered to vote. This pleasant land's free, so I took the intercity for democracy and me. I knocked at the door, but they didn't let me in. So I kicked it down and I walked right in. She was standing at the bar while Healy cut his crust. Question time, Mikey Buck.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so we've also got a sample from the KLF. They started to use a number of illegal samples.
Take me to the church of the KLF. Take me to the church of the KLF. It's 3 a.m., 3 a.m., it's 3 a.m., eternal. Take me to the church of the Take me, 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 take me to the church of the KLF. Take me to the church of the Take me to the church of the KLF. Take me to the church of the KLF.
Here we go. Now the introduction. It's cool tip, Bronx with production. The instructions you must follow. So when you wake up tomorrow, you'll say, hey, the brother don't play. And like a smart man, you'll stay away. Betray, okay, that's a no-no. I'm all city, yes, and all metro. From the intro, I gotta line it up. Chuck, chill out, come on, wind it up. While I rhyme it up to the rhythm. Cause getting paid, that's how I'm living. Now what I'm giving, go ahead and bite. Watch the mic explode like dynamite. And like kryptonite, I won't stop talking. And when you see me face to face, keep walking. Cause I'm talking, raps who play me close. Step back or catch a rap overdose. Well, I display and relay the sound you crave. The rhythm is the master. And I'm just a
All right, there we go. And let's get my display back up. Anyways, after the KLF, I also want to mention the band called Negative Land. Now, Negative Land is actually the band that coined the term culture jamming in the first place in the mid-'80s. And they're a group of subgenius audio hackers, essentially, who had been doing work with an hour of Slack, an original radio program produced by the Church of the Subgenius. They did something with a U2 song.
Production or what? What did you say? Kind of production. There are all sorts of possibilities you could do. You know, a little spoof on something.
This is also nothing new.
Yeah, get the stuff together, no problem. You know, there's more to do.
Come on, let's...
No. Oh, well.
This is American Top 40.
I have climbed the highest mountains.
Yeah, I believe it's the weather, man.
And guess what?
Where you at?
I've run through the fields only to be with you. Yep, with you. No one else, just you.
Here's the first Top 40 hit.
And guess what?
For the Irish band from Dublin who call themselves U2.
I have run, I have crawled, I have scaled these city walls. Yeah, that's really great. I can't believe I did it, but nevertheless, I have done that for you.
That's the letter U and the numeral 2.
Only to be with you, I've done all these things. Yeah, with you. The fat one, that's it. You're the fat one, and I want to be with you.
What's the matter? Can I say, why was it changed here?
But, on the other hand, I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
That's the letter U and the numeral 2. We're counting down the 40 biggest hits in the 50 states.
Hey, sewer mouth, we're gonna get you.
This is American Top 40. This is American Top 40. God, I hate that. We come out of that and then I gotta say the goddamn American. I hear the American Top 40 jingle and I say this is American Top 40.
The winner is...
Let the goddamn jingle ID this show. I ID the show whenever there isn't a jingle, don't I?
The winner is...
Don't I do it between every goddamn record that we play?
So, Negative Land put out an album, in fact, entitled U2. That was one of the head singles from this, and predictably got sued. But yet, that was also part of the art. Part of what they were trying to point out is the ridiculousness of where culture says that you're not allowed to remix something. I think it's pretty clear that nobody's going to mistake that for the original U2 song.
An angel has always been thought to be one of God's most precious works. Guess that's how she had you fooled, 'cause she was an angel in disguise. Hurt and pain could never come from her, so you left me only to find that hurt and pain involves her. And now you see your mistakes, and now you see your angel was a fake. But my love was never misplaced. See, baby, my love is true. And most importantly, still I love you. In the sky she was, but somebody fell for love. Until she occupied the day. Moving in the rain, still I love you. An angel in the sky she was, but somebody fell for love. I found it quite strange the way you say her name, and when you look in her eyes, I see the lust you can't deny. It's more to this than what you said, 'cause in your sleep you called her name. Say she's just a friend. I knew right then, 'cause the rain began. Oh, you hurt me, babe. Yeah, but I'm still here, still loving you.
What happens when culture jamming becomes mainstream? So this is a Cacophony Society event that started in the late 80s. Now in San Francisco, there's a huge race that goes through the city called the Beta Breakers. So it's where you are running from the San Francisco Bay to the ocean. I don't remember how long it is, but it's a big deal. Thousands and thousands of people come run through the streets of San Francisco every year. Well, a man named Rob came up with the idea that it would be hilarious to dress up in salmon costumes and run the opposite way to spawn. This is Rob's original salmon costumes. They're not very comfortable. I did this one year. They're actually made of carpet padding. But still, it's lots of fun. You go run the opposite way, and then you do your little spawning dance, and everybody has a great time. Well, this has apparently entered the meme stream. So one of the things that I think is so important about Lawrence Lessig when he was talking last night about that non-commercial license is so that perhaps your art doesn't end up here. Something to think about. Not only that, but even outside of taking people's ideas, corporations have started to engage in underground media techniques. Several years ago, there was a campaign by IBM when they were trying to push their Linux servers to get people to write peace, love, Linux. They had the peace sign, the heart sign, and a little penguin. Well, it turns out that IBM actually paid taggers to graffiti this on the streets of New York and San Francisco. This did not go over so well with the municipalities when they found out about it. But it's very interesting because when we come back to the theme of the conference here, it really brings us back to who can you trust, right? If you're expecting to trust something because it's underground, because it's graffitied somewhere, that means it's cool. Well, maybe it just means that they're being paid to do it, and it's something to pay attention to.
Here's the solution. Smoking so bad, I'ma cause a pollution. With satisfaction, bad attraction, fatal attraction. Chop me to an improper fraction. Ill insanity, kill like Amityville. Horror as I wipe out humanity. Won't leave a path, a track, a trail to trace. But when you're staring inside of a mirror, you see my face and I'll terrify. So don't ever try to shake or bake or flake, cause I never fry. Letters together, slides and files clever than never. Silly ducks write rhymes with feathers. Read it, no needles are needed to inject this dope. Cause I'm a death wish, not even Bob Holmes. Rhymes are rugged, so flooded, cold blooded. You ain't better, your brother, so just shut it. Here to perform, ever to brainstorm, make a rainform. How rap groups run to keep the name warm. Putting heads to Betty Bob like Freddy, so get ready. Cause I'ma get crazy out of Crazy Eddie. I'm alone, but my tone is a sharp tune. Develop pictures in your brain like a dark room. Rappers are captured and torture with rapture. In 3D, it's a G coming at ya. Words on my rap, we surprise like crack jacks. You dig on like sugar smacks, so bright up like apple jacks. Brother, sister, Mrs. or Mister, my style is complicated. Patterns like Twister. Pose, my shadow grows when I walk slow. Nerves are scared to be heard, so they talk low. But I've been urging to drill in your brain like a surgeon. Rhymes are open and busting you open like a virgin. More competitors, change the challenger. You need to talk to a mic with the silencer. My defeat is like a mission impossible. My brain is unexplained, not logical. Therefore I'm passing bait to assassinate. Busting your ass so fast it'll fascinate. You try to duplicate to get up to date. Can't wait to be my pen pal or paper mate.
A digger is a person that they label, what you call a beatnik, you dig? Beatnik, people with unconventional generation. They didn't know what was happening. They didn't know the beatnik cared so much about humanity as they do now. You know what I mean? Well, the free store to me means a great deal because it helps out the community and it brings people together with no profit involved. If there was any profit involved, I wouldn't be here because money doesn't mean that much to me. You know what I mean? You talk about the hippie. What is the hippie? Where does the name come from, hippie? Why don't you talk about the younger generation, the people who are changing? Why don't you talk about the people who know what's happening and don't agree with the old line of thinking? Why don't you talk about the people who believe in brotherly love and nothing else? And prove it every day on Haight-Ashbury.
I mean, all I can remember, the world was gonna end.
thing that I want to talk about here, well, one of the last, is what I call the death of irony. Now, some of you may be familiar with this satirical newspaper, theonion.com, or just The Onion. Well, January 17th, 2001, they published this article, "Bush, our long national nightmare of peace and prosperity is finally over." This is the annotated edition that came out just a year ago with links to every single thing that has actually happened from this article. It's pretty disturbing when The Onion is prophesizing something that comes out in reality. And it doesn't just go for politics either. If you are familiar with the disposable razor industry, you might have heard of the razor wars between Gillette and Schick, two companies that are making disposable razors for men. Well, first of all, Gillette came out with the 3-blade razor because it was superior to the old 2-blade razor. And then Schick came out with the 4-blade razor. Well, about 2 years ago, The Onion published an article saying, "Gillette, fuck it, we're going to 5 blades." 18 months later, they did. So I've got some links up on my website. There's a links page. And if you come back later tonight, I will have a specific further reference for anybody here who wants to take a look at any of the groups that I mentioned or any of the people that I feel are incredibly important that I wasn't able to mention. I want to tell you a little anecdote that I heard recently. There's a television show called Dateline NBC. And they got a number of small children, 7-year-olds, right? And they were curious as to how pervasive advertising has really come into society. So they decided to try this out. They gave the 7-year-olds a choice. We have 2 cupcakes. One is a plain chocolate cupcake with chocolate frosting. The other is exactly the same, but has a picture of Spider-Man in frosting. "Which one do you want?" they said. The kids chose the Spider-Man cupcake. "Because it'll taste better," they said. Dateline wasn't so sure about this, so they decided to check it out. Then they offered the kids a choice between the plain cupcake, chocolate frosting, and a banana that they'd put a little Scooby-Doo sticker on. Which one would you rather have? The kids chose the banana. So then, just to take this into the realm of absurdity, they said, okay, we're gonna see through this. So they got a giant rock, and they put a bunch of stickers on the rock. And they gave the choice between the sticker-covered rock and a banana, a plain banana. And they said, which one would you rather eat for breakfast? And the kids said, the rock. And they said, are you sure? The rock, they said. Now, it's true the kids probably weren't planning on actually eating the rock for breakfast. They probably figured that this might get them a shiny new rock with stickers. But at the same time, it really says something about the culture that we find ourselves in today. So, to sum that all up, I want to point out that Discordianism has a wide and varied history. Culture jamming is used by corporations and the underground alike. And before I end, I'd like to thank a number of people. This is also up on my website, but I'd like to thank all of you here today. I'd like to specifically thank Jacob Applebaum for getting me here in the first place. I'd like to thank the Discord Society community on LiveJournal for seriously helping me out. And my mother, God, Eris.
What do you think of my powers now?
gentlemen, I forgot my favorite man sitting over there. His name is
Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina. 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 Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina.
Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina, won't you quit? You really make me sick with your fraudulent behavior. You're gonna make me flip and then the army couldn't save you. Why don't you behave, you little rugrat? Take a little tip from the tabloid, because I know I'm not paranoid. When I say I saw you trying to mock me, now you and your crew are on a mission trying to hawk me. But it isn't happening, you fraudulent foes. You used to front big time, now I suppose that everything's cool since the style of apparel you adopted. You used to make fun of, but now you wanna rock it. So you gotta kick it with the homies. But DEL is already hip to your cronies. Me and CMP's thought about this and never have we seen a brother who would hover like Mr. Doubleina.
Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina. Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina. Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina. Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina.
Mr. Doubleina, you thought you could manipulate, you thought you could fool me. Ooh, Mr. Doubleina, teach wizard put me on a stuff and then he schooled me. Friends could be fraudulent, just you wait and see. First he was my money grip, then he stole my honey dip. Mr. Doubleina is a serpent, don't you agree? The little two-timer resembles Aunt Jemima with jeans and a dirty white hoodie. Seems like he wouldn't be a snake, or would he? Disguises come in all sizes and shapes. Notice the facade of the snakes. They all catch the vapes, even though last year there was GQ. Took a lot of time before the DEL could see through the mask. All I had to do was ask the Emperor and Kwame, and my man responded they were bomb. Fraudulent foe with the strength of Hercules. The way you're on my dick must really hurt your knees. You need to take heed and quit being such a groupie. Ever since I did a little show in Guadalupe, I never saw a groupie like you. But what is funny is you wanted to be down with my crew, but DEL is not down with any clowns of justice. So I would suggest that you try to impress Uncle Fester Doubleina, because you don't impress me, Doubleina. The style of dress is not the key, Doubleina. It's all on the mind and the heart, so you should start by remembering you gotta pay a fee, Doubleina.
Mr. Bob Doubleina. Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina. Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina. Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina.
Glory, I'm stupid. Mr. Bob Doubleina. Glory, I'm stupid. Mr. Bob Doubleina.
His name is
Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina.